Parturition or labor. Parturition or labor is the physiological process by which the pregnant uterus delivers the fetus and fetal membrane from the mother. Parturition, it is the act of giving birth to young one. So in this topic, parturition, we will see the signs of parturition in farm animals and mechanism, then summary, then stages of parturition and references. So let us see the signs of parturition. So signs of parturition, the animals, they seek isolation, restlessness, they become restlessness. We can find elevated pulse and respiratory rates, straining. Then some animals shows colostrum oozes from the teeth orifice like in mare, and nest building also seen in dog and cat. In case of sow means it is pig. So respiratory rate is better indicator. So respiratory rate increases steadily and peak 6 hours before farrowing. Farrowing, that is also a act of giving birth. Respiratory rate 54 breath per minute during 24 to 12 hours before farrowing, and respiratory rate 91 breath per minute during 12 to 4 hours before farrowing. Body temperature also some especially in bitch or dog. So progesterone, we know that it is a predominant hormone during pregnancy or pregnancy hormone. So progesterone causes increased body temperature. It increases basal metabolic rate. So at parturition, when there is regression of corpus luteum, so resulted decrease in progesterone. And it is for the animal, those depend upon the progesterone. Corpus luteum as a progesterone source. If the corpus luteum is destroyed, progesterone level goes down at parturition, and therefore in bitch it shows decreased body temperature by 2 to 3 degree. Observe 6 to 8 hours before parturition. It is especially seen in bitch, and it is reliable in bitch, not in other species. So these are the signs at parturition when animal approaching parturition. So those signs can be seen commonly seen in farm animals. So what is the mechanism? So parturition means we know that during pregnancy the uterus it is in relax, or because during pregnancy progesterone they prevent the motility of the uterus, and uterus progesterone cause maintain the uterus in a relaxed condition, and the cervix is closed or they are contracted. So it is very important during pregnancy the cervix should closed to prevent the growing fetus from any infection or any infection from outside. So at parturition the uterus they become contractile, from relaxed to contractile, and cervix from closed to open they become relaxed. So this event takes place at parturition. Let us see the initiation, how it occurs. Parturition is triggered by the fetus and completed by a complex interaction of endocrine, neural, and mechanical forces. So parturition, time of parturition, it is actually determined by the fetus, and it is end up by the complex interaction of endocrine, neural, and mechanical forces of the mother. So the fetal hypothalamus, as the growing fetus, when the hypothalamus develop or when they able to secrete the corticotropin releasing hormone, and when the pituitary will respond to this releasing hormone from the hypothalamus, and from pituitary under the influence of this corticotropin releasing hormone they release synthesis and release ACTH, that is Adrenocorticotropic hormone. This adrenocorticotropic hormone stimulates the adrenal gland, the cortex, and under the influence of ACTH, the adrenal cortex produce the fetal cortisol. So, maturation of adrenal cortex is very important to respond the ACTH. When the fetal cortisols are released from the adrenal cortex, this cortisol it causes the it increases the estrogen concentration. This fetal cortisol act upon the placenta, and the placenta starts secreting estrogen, and the estrogen concentration increases. When the estrogen concentration increases, this estrogen stimulates the uterus for the secretion of PGF2 alpha from the uterus. When there is PGF2 alpha secretion, it will regress the corpus luteum and there is decreased progesterone concentration. So, how does it occur? How the estrogen concentration enhanced by the fetal cortisol? Let us see. So, when the fetal cortisols are released from adrenal cortex, it stimulates the placenta. The stimulate and synthetize these two enzymes, 17 hydroxylase and C1720 lyase. This enzyme they cause production of estrogen from pregnanolone, the precursor, or progesterone. So there is a conversion from progesterone to estrogen. The ratio, the estrogen concentration increases and progesterone concentration decreases. So estrogen concentration slowly increases due to the production of this enzyme by the influence of fetal cortisol. So when the estrogen concentration increases, it causes estrogen concentration is it causes destabilize the lysosomal membrane. When the estrogen causes destabilizing the lysosomal membrane, this when there is destabilizing the lysosomal membrane, there is availability of phospholipase A. When this enzyme is activated or availability of this enzyme cause hydrolysis of phospholipids. When there is hydrolysis of phospholipid, this due to the action of phospholipase A, when there is hydrolysis of phospholipid, there is release of arachidonic acid. Availability of arachidonic acid, and this arachidonic acid it's become precursor for the synthesis of PGF2 alpha, and the uterus secretes synthesis the PGF2 alpha from arachidonic acid. And when there is increased level of PGF2 alpha, this PGF2 alpha uh, through uh, through the ovarian artery, it goes to the ovary and cause luteolysis, that is regression of corpus luteum, which is the source of progesterone in some animals. So when there is regression of corpus luteum, progesterone concentration decreases, and because progesterone prevent the uterus contraction. When the progesterone level goes down, the progesterone cannot able to prevent the uterine contraction. So that is how the fetal cortisol they cause the increased level of estrogen. When there is increased level of estrogen, they cause availability of the arachidonic acid. When there is availability of the arachidonic acid, the uterus synthesis and increase the secretion of PGF2 alpha that causes luteolysis. So that is how the PGF2 alpha secretion occurs from the uterus and the progesterone level goes down. First, there is fetal hypothalamus, pituitary, and adrenal cortex axis have to be developed for the release of fetal cortisol. That is the initial part for parturition. So let us see how estrogen play other function also. When there is increased level of estrogen, this estrogen stimulate the myometrium, that is uterus, for the production of contractile protein, actin and myosin. When there is increased amount of contractile protein, the contraction of uterus is become very high. Therefore, there will be forceful contraction of the uterus. So estrogen prepared the uterus for the forceful contraction. That is very important. And estrogen also prime the uterus. Prime the uterus means it stimulates the development of oxytocin receptor in the uterus, so that oxytocin can act upon the uterus and and help or enhance the forceful contraction of the uterus. So these two events, estrogen play a very significant role for parturition at parturition. So let us see the PGF2 alpha, how it is stimulate the uterine contraction. What is the mechanism of PGF2 alpha? When there is increased amount of PGF2 alpha, definitely it does luteolysis, and also in the uterus is cause intracellular calcium release. When there is availability of the calcium, when there is release of calcium from the sarcoplasmic reticulum, then calcium bind with the calcium binding protein and they form the calcium calmodulin complex. When these complexes are formed, they stimulate the actin and myosin and there is muscle contraction. So smooth muscle contraction. So this is how it cause the availability of the or release of or the mobility of the calcium from the sarcoplasmic reticulum. The PGF2 alpha in mare. So PGF2 alpha in mare and also in primate, progesterone level remain elevated at parturition. Therefore, the PGF2 alpha should overcome the suppressive effect of progesterone on myometrial activity. So progesterone, it prevents the uterine contraction. But at parturition, the PGF2 alpha should overcome this preventive action of progesterone and convert the uterus into relaxed to the contractile unit at parturition. So in mare and also in other primates, the progesterone level does not goes down. So let us see the how the cervix is open. Relaxin is secreted by the corpus luteum or placenta, and the function of relaxin is relaxation of inter-pubic ligament. That cause relaxation of the inter-pubic ligament, and relaxation of the ligament and associated muscles around the birth canal so that the fetus can come out from the uterus. So relaxin and also prostaglandin of the cervix. When there is softening of the cervix and because uterine contraction, it causes the physical force of the contracting uterus. That contracting uterus, that contracting uterus uh, and along with the hormone, they cause the opening of the cervix at the time of parturition. So this is how the mechanism occurs. So during pregnancy, the uterus relax and cervix is closed. At parturition, uterus become contractile and cervix is open. So there is mixture of endocrine, the hormone as well as the physical force also, uh, the mechanical force also. It caused the opening of the cervix. So when we summarize all the mechanism, so fetal cortisol, which is increased 4 to 3 weeks prepartum before parturition, and they stimulate the fetoplacental unit, and the fetoplacental unit, they increase the estrogen level. When there is increased estrogen level, PGF2 alpha concentration increases almost 36 to 24 hours prepartum before parturition in cow. And when there is PGF2 alpha, there is corpus luteum regression. When there is corpus luteum regression, progesterone level goes down. Estrogen also cause prime the uterus or cause sensitivity to oxytocin. And PGF2 alpha also cause mobility of sarcoplasmic calcium. So availability of the calcium within the cell has increased. And placenta or the corpus luteum also, they stimulate the release of relaxin. They cause relaxation of the pelvic ligaments. So these are the relaxin, and the uterus becomes sensitive to oxytocin, and the progesterone decreased level of progesterone is very important at parturition. So these all factor they cause the contraction of the myometrium or the uterine contraction. Another neuronal stimulation we can see, this phenomenon is called ferguson reflex. When the feet they reach to the pelvis, the sensory neurons at the pelvis, uh, the sensory neurons are stimulated, and these neurons take the information to the hypothalamus, and under the influence of this reflex or ferguson reflex, the hypothalamus, they start secreting the oxytocin, and that oxytocin is transported to the posterior pituitary, and posterior pituitary release the oxytocin in the circulation, and this oxytocin they cause abdominal muscle contraction, and oxytocin also act upon the myometrium and stimulate the contraction. So there is forceful contraction of myometrium, and due to the forceful contraction of myometrium, there is opening of the cervix and the expulsion of fetus. So here the summary, in summary, the parturition, it is combined with the mechanical force, endocrine function, and neuronal action all together in coordination. They cause strong myometrial contraction as well as abdominal muscle contraction, opening of the cervix, and the expulsion of the fetus. So let us see the stages of parturition. So it is divided into three stages: dilatation of cervix, expulsion of fetus, expulsion of fetal membrane. Dilatation of cervix is beginning of the uterine contraction until cervix is fully dilated. Events: the maternal become restlessness, elevated pulse and respiratory rate, changes in fetal position and posture. The mechanical force is regular uterine contraction. Expulsion of fetus, it is a start from complete cervical dilatation to end of delivery of fetus. So maternal recumbency, straining, rupture of allantochorion, and escape of fluid from vulva, appearance of amnion, and delivery of fetus. So there is a strong uterine and abdominal contraction. Third stage is expulsion of fetal membrane. After delivery of fetus to expulsion of fetal membrane, that is period. Maternal straining ceases, loosening of chorionic villi from maternal crypts, straining and expulsion of fetal membrane. So uterine contraction decreases in amplitude. So these are the stages of parturition. So three stages of parturition. So thank you for watching.